Hello everybody, this is a supplemental video to help us look at doing some of the functions that we've talked about in Excel. Mainly for this week, it's going to be constructing diagrams, graphs, and first of all, we're going to look at constructing a histogram in Excel. In Excel, the way you construct a histogram depends on how the data is presented to you. If you have a frequency table like this one, the way you'll go about it. Now, first of all, a lot of people are tempted to do this. They go to insert and we're looking at our charts, and this is how we start out. But a lot of people see this option here of a histogram. But you can see here in this preview that is generated, that does not look like a histogram. The frequency table over here has 7 classes in it, but if I do histogram, it's only going to give me a chart with 2 bars in it. A histogram should have a bar for every class in the frequency table. That is not a correct histogram because that's not the type of data that that histogram function is looking for. So the function we want, if we're given a frequency table, the way we want to create our histogram is to actually go to column charts or bar charts, and we can pick any of them. I usually just pick the first one, and we create a bar chart. Now, there's a problem here still because there's space between the bars, but we can fix that by simply right-clicking on one of the bars, going to Format Data Series, and setting our gap width, dragging that down to 0, and you can see now there's no more space between our bars. That is a proper histogram. What if our data is given to us completely in a list like this? Well, this is where that histogram function comes in. So we can go to click to insert, go here to our statistical charts, and we can select histogram, and there it gives us our histogram. The problem here is that Excel generates the classes down here, 13 to 19.4, 19.4 to 25.8. Technically, this is 13 to 19.39. The decimals are, they overlap, which is technically an improper histogram. But if you want, we don't like going to decimals like that. We like to go to even numbers. So what you can do is you can right-click on one of those classes and hit Format Axis. And you can go over here and you can change the bin width where it says 6.4. You can change it to 7. And now it makes them nice and neat. Now you'll see this automatically gives us the number of bins is 5. Let's say we wanted 8 bins. So we can change that to 8 if we want to. But you'll notice it unchecks the bin width and it gives us, again, a generated bin width. You cannot do both. You cannot select a bin width and the number of bins. You can either select one or the other. So when we select the number of bins, it gives us decimal endpoints in our ranges again. So I prefer to select the bin width. And that way we can have nice integer things. Now, again, you do need to be aware that these are technically, statistically incorrect. Excel generates a histogram, but it's bad form, 13 to 19 and then 19 to 25. If a data point has exactly the value of 19, which one does it go in? Well, you can see the way Excel handles it is it uses set notation down here on this. Let me blow this up so you can see it better. You can see here there's square brackets on both ends. So a square bracket is a closed end. So that means the 13 and the 19 are both included in this bar. Where on this one, there's a round bracket on this end, which is saying 19 is not included, but everything slightly bigger than 19 is. So 19.001 is included. The problem this gives us is now this first class is slightly bigger. This is 13 to 19, where this one is 19.001 to 25, slightly smaller than the first one. So technically it should be a round bracket on the beginning here, but then if we have data points that are 13, they wouldn't be included there. So the standard function in Excel is probably not the greatest, the best way to create a histogram. Now, Excel does have another function that allows us to create a frequency table rather quickly. To do that, we first need to find the classes that we're going to use in the frequency table. And so to do that, the first thing we need to do is find the smallest number. So we put in equals min, and we highlight the data set. Find the smallest number in the list is 13. Equals max will find us the largest number. I'm just going to type in A1, A80. Oops, I did that wrong. This should have been a semicolon. Nope. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and highlight it. So there we go. We get 46. So our classes go from 13 to 46. We need to decide on how many classes we're going to have. I am going to go by fives probably. So I'm just going to do 11 through, actually, let's do this. Since this goes by ones, I don't have to worry about decimal endpoints. So let's just do 13 through 17, 18 through 22, 23 through 27, 28 through 32, 33 through 37, 38 through 42, and 43 through 47. So those are my classes. Now for my frequency, now here's a function. It's a little tricky to enter, but we highlight all these columns or all these cells that are all going to be the frequencies. And we can ask Excel to generate all those frequencies at once. So we hit equals, and we type in the word frequency. Now frequency is a multi-cell function. So it's going to operate on all of these cells that we are highlighted here. So now the first thing it asks for is the data array. So we need to highlight the data. So that's going to be the 31 through, or the A1 through A80, I should say. So we highlight those. That's my data array. Now I hit a column and it's asking for the bins array. So my bins array, I'm going to put in a squiggly bracket, and then I'm going to put in the upper limit of each class. So this one goes up to 17, comma, the next one goes to 22, then 27, 32, 37, 42, and 47. Use the squiggly bracket to close that up, and then I'm going to close my parentheses. Now here's the important part. We're so reflexive of hitting enter when we're done entering our function in Excel. We cannot do that here. If you hit enter, we're going to get an error, and it's going to be really tough to fix. What you're going to do is you're going to do Control Shift and then enter. What that tells Excel to do is to enter that function in each cell. So you can click on each cell, you can see that same function's entered, but it is entering the frequency. Now, if we wanted to count these up, we could sort these. Let's do a data sort, A to Z, smallest to largest. And you see 13 to 17, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's correct. 18 to 22, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's correct. And we can double check. Those are the correct frequencies. Now you do want to be careful. You cannot click on one of these and change anything. If I type a key and try to change something here, it's going to give us an error message, and it's going to lock up Excel, where basically we'd have to delete this page and start all over again. It's really almost impossible to fix if you mess with anything there. Now we can go ahead and highlight this, or the whole table again, just like we did on the previous page back here. And we can go to insert, and we can use that column chart or bar graph. Now, again, right click on each, format data series, set our gap width to 0. Now you might ask, why would we do it this way rather than using the histogram function over here? Well, because here we can absolutely set the exact classes we want for our classes, whereas the histogram function, we can set our class width, but we can't really set a starting point. So this is just a little bit more controlled on what the classes are. And this is a more statistically accurate histogram, where this one here, technically the classes, over here, technically the classes have a little bit of overlap, or if you use the set notation like they do, the first class is slightly larger than the others. So there are some statistical issues with that one as far as being a histogram. So this is probably the better way of doing it. So with that, if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, good luck on the assignments this week. You will need to be able to generate those graphs like that for your application assignments coming up. So be aware of that.